We know, as you know, that Vladimir Putin is only going to face his comeuppance, that his whole mad nightmare is only going to come apart at the seams when the whole world is standing against him with every option on the table, denouncing his illegal action and standing with Ukraine with military assistance and every other form of assistance. This is the biggest issue facing the world today, in my view. I think in the view of our Prime Minister and our team. Yes, there is terrorism. Vladimir Putin is behaving like a terrorist. And he was taught by and trained by an organization that specialized in training terrorists. So there's no surprise there. But Syria and Iraq are serious issues as well. We can't forget them. Maybe Ukraine is in the plight that it's in because of mistakes that the United States and others made with regard to our policy jointly in Syria. But the buck stops in Ukraine. There is absolutely no scenario going into the future that leads to peace and security for this world, that leads to prosperity in Europe globally, that does not include a full international effort to give Ukraine the tools it needs to drive Russian forces from their borders and to secure its borders for good. What is happening in eastern Ukraine has roots that go as far back as well, and some to the Second World War. But it really has to do with the incomplete process of ending the existence of the Soviet Union for good, ending the oppression and the Faustian bargain that had been made in the Second World War with Stalin's Soviet Union for good. And we have been, those of us who served in Russia, we have been expecting this. We have been expecting a crisis in Ukraine because there have always been Russians since 1991 everywhere, and now around Vladimir Putin, who wanted to put Humpty Dumpty back together, who didn't accept that Ukraine could be an independent country within these borders. They are a menace to Russia, they are a menace to Ukraine, they are a menace to the whole world, ladies and gentlemen, and we must speak out against this dangerous ideology, which is present in our own city of Toronto, which is present across Canada, which comes to us through state-sponsored Russian channels that are preaching absolute poison. For Vladimir Putin's media handlers to be calling the government of Ukraine, to be calling us Ukraine supporters, to be calling the whole Western world Nazis is nothing less than reprehensible. And we must be taking the lead not only in fighting and supporting those who are fighting, not only in making sure that Ukraine gets all the support it needs, but in denouncing one of the greatest perversions of history that I have seen in my lifetime, which comes to us courtesy of Russian language television. Ladies and gentlemen, let's join that fight as well. There are ideas at stake here. There is ideology at stake here. There is history at stake here. And all of our democracies depend on the outcome of this struggle. It is going to be a great struggle. We are just at the beginning of this struggle. And I think when I see groups like this assembled, when I see determination on the level that is plain from all of your faces, I know that the future of Ukraine is still bright. I know that the ties that bind Canada to Ukraine have never been stronger. And I know that Canada's leadership in the world on this issue, as on others, has never been more important. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Slava Ukraini!
Today we're having a banquet primarily to honor the fallen heroes of Maidan, the Nebesna Sotnya, the Heavenly Hundred. It's exactly almost a year ago today with those tragic events happen on Maidan. Our special guest of honor today is Andrei Parubi, who was the head of the Samoboron, or the self-defense units, on Maidan.
Do we have some Canadian politicians that are making an appearance?
We do. We have Minister Chris Alexander, who will be another one of the honored guests, and he'll have a few words, hopefully, of encouragement from the Canadian side. We're putting more and more pressure on the Canadian government to do more than just sanctions. It's definitely time that Canada take a lead and start providing defensive weapons to the Ukrainian forces. Putin just wants the empire back. He wants to bring it all back under their fold, to call it their Great Russia. Of course, they're calling southern Ukraine Nova Russia. It's just the same old thing. They want it back. And in fact, if you look at some of the videos coming out from those regions and the Russian troops there, they keep yelling that this is our land, this is our land. You know, they're in places like Donetsk, and they're saying that it's their land. And I honestly believe a large portion of them believe it's theirs. They just think that it's just part of their old empire.
Yeah. Well, here's hoping it looks like a successful day. It's a sellout today.
It's a sellout. We sold out a week into this event, and when we announced it, within 1 week we had 390 seats sold. So hopefully we'll get something very positive out of this. This is a big fundraiser for us. So all the funds that are raised tonight will go directly to help the frontline troops in Ukraine.
Wonderful. Well, all the best. Thanks for doing what you do. Slava Ukraini.
Heroям slava.
Slava Canada, and stay Ukrainian. And I'll tell you, our Ukrainians here know how to stay Ukrainian, for us and for them.
Thank you.
God bless.
God bless.
Maidan is a tragic anniversary for Ukraine. The Nebesna Sotnya perished on this anniversary a year ago, fighting for European values for Ukraine, against corruption, going for democracy. Yanukovych left the country. A war ensued since then. We've actually had about 12 or 13 Maidanists since then, if you count all the dead soldiers who are defending Ukraine. So both tragic, but at the same time, as sad as that is, kind of uplifting in the sense that look how many people volunteered for a nation. When the army wouldn't stand to fight, volunteers went out and fought. So I look at it, both sad, but very, very also a happy time for Ukraine to be forming as a nation, to be conglomerating its forces, to be fighting back against the biggest power in the world, or the second biggest power in the world, a nation that had no army a year ago, was completely bankrupted and corrupted by Yanukovych. Today is now defending its territory, but only losing about two half provinces. Both my dide served in the Hawatska Armia in World War I, and my father came to Canada after World War II, strong patriotic roots. Bandrivsko rodu, Taras Rupa sent us to Tabir. We had some of the best Vekovniki around in all the tabor I was at, and something stuck. And good soil, and was well tilled and well taken care of. And you can grow patriots in Canada who want to help Ukraine. And I'm very proud of it, and I'm very happy for Ukraine standing up also, because for a long time we stood here in Canada defending Ukraine when there was no Ukraine. It was part of the Soviet Union, very tough. Today's a different environment. And you can see how many people came together. Not only did I, come to this and have been for 30 years, but look at all the people from Ukraine now who have joined us. A bunch of young people were here 10, 12 years, all of a sudden lit up like a light bulb, and now we're standing up for Ukraine and have become nationalists.
It's really important to have Andrei Parubi here, and we were very much encouraging him to come here in order to help us in pushing the agenda with the Canadian government to help provide military, kinetic, meaning lethal, defensive weaponry for Ukraine. Because quite frankly, Putin continues to roll across Ukraine because they just don't have the arms to defend themselves. And so that's why we're accompanying Andrei Parubi to Ottawa tomorrow, where we'll be meeting with senior levels of government, ministers, Prime Minister's office, to basically make the pitch as to why this is necessary and why, in fact, Canada should be leading the way.
By doing something like this, could a country like Canada or the United States or France or Germany, by supplying these weapons, can that not be construed as a declaration?
First off, Western powers, in particular the United States, Great Britain, and Russia, guaranteed Ukraine's territorial integrity and security when Ukraine gave up its third largest nuclear arsenal in the world. So they have an obligation to provide them with the security measures that Ukraine needs to defend themselves. I don't buy into this escalation game. I think that, quite frankly, Ukrainians are dying on the front because they have these terrorists that are basically shooting rockets into innocent towns, and frankly, 70% of the deaths on the field are because of these rockets. If the United States provides Ukraine with anti-missile batteries, then they can defend themselves against these rocket launchers, rockets that flew into cities like Mariupol and Debaltseve. If they had the equipment, they could defend themselves. What they're doing is allowing Ukraine to defend itself. That's what we're asking for. I pray for the Russian people. I really think they deserve a much better president than they have right now because, quite frankly, he is, and I've met with many of the Russian opposition leaders, they are afraid. He is basically a dictator in his own country. He's brainwashing them, and he's also preventing them from actually expressing themselves. Ukraine will be at peace with Russia when Russia is one day a democracy. That's what we're praying for, is the Russian people have human rights and freedoms like the Ukrainian people are trying to accomplish. We've got a very sympathetic government right now. We're meeting with the new defense minister this week, Jason Kenney. We're meeting with the new foreign affairs minister, and they're very sympathetic to what Ukraine needs today, and they want to listen to us. They want to listen to the Ukrainians from Ukraine. They want to listen to the Ukrainian Canadians, and they're very open to our ask. And I'm hoping that this week we'll be able to convince the Canadian government to provide Ukraine what it needs.